Well, there's Shara. Good evening, dear. And Michaela's here. Good evening to you too, dear. So we'll
Thank you.
just start with this simple wish. May we all be safe. May we all be healthy. May we all be cheerful. May we all have peace of mind. Jai, 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 the divine presence. So, Rochelle, do you have the book there in front of you?
I am opening it up.
Page 67.
Okay, this is the digital copy. Here it comes. Okay, so are we still doing St. Francis?
Well, I don't remember whether this is St. Francis or Rumi or who it is. But
Okay.
in any case, whatever it is on page 67, what's the title of the poem?
We did the way things should, I believe.
Well,
Way wings should.
I think we want to start
Ah,
with this poem that goes, "What will our children do in the morning?" You see that one on page
um,
67?
the digital copy is slightly different. What will the children? Oh, yes, that's it. The way wings should.
Right. So if you would be so kind as to read that twice for us.
Sure. What will our children do in the morning? The way wings should. What will our children do in the morning? Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings
So
should?
wait a minute. I think you skipped something. If they do not see us fly, isn't that there?
Oh,
What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly?
no, it's not on here. That's strange. I think I might have a different edition. It's Daniel Ladinsky and it is the same book, but this might be edited differently.
Okay.
You stop
Uh,
me if I'm not saying the complete poem.
yes.
What will our children? Mhm.
Michaela is holding it up for us.
Oh, okay. Well, if she can read.
that's that's the hard copy. Rochelle has the
Digital.
digital copy.
Yeah. Do you want me to still read or?
Yeah, please.
Oh,
What
oh,
will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly?
uh-huh. Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? Will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, so that her power and beauty does not make us forget our own? I know all about the ways of the heart, how it wants to be alive. Love so needs to love that it will endure almost anything, even abuse, just to flicker for a moment. But the sky's mouth is kind. Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly the way they should? Okay, I'm going to read it again. The
Please.
way wings should. What will our children do in the morning if they don't see us fly? I
No,
don't know.
no, I'm sorry. I was the one that had it wrong, dear, not you. So just read it just as you have it.
Oh,
What
okay.
will our children do in the morning?
Uh-huh. If will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? Will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful charms of the earth, so that her power and beauty does not make us forget our own? I know all about the ways of the heart, how it wants to be alive. Love so needs to love that it will endure almost anything, even abuse, just to flicker for a moment. But the sky's mouth is kind. Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words. What will our children do in the morning if they do not see us fly?
This is such a gorgeous poem. First of all, it asks this question of what are we modeling for our children? Now, Shara is very learned in children's education, and she knows how important, I'm sure it is, that we model something very positive for children, particularly when they're very young, because otherwise they get twisted.
Mm-hmm. And it says, "Love so needs to love." It's its primary function
Yes,
because it's a verb and a noun,
right.
and it will endure almost anything, even abuse, just to, I guess, I want to say, express for just a second. Um, and I just feel like that's so true.
Yes. It's interesting that he asks the question, will they have dreamed the needed flights and gathered the strength from the planets that all men and women need to balance the wonderful dreams, the wonderful charms of the earth, so that her power and beauty does not make us forget our own. And that seems to me the heart of the poem, that we have to have this. And then, of course, as you see, he goes into, this is Rumi, he goes into, I know all about the ways of the heart, how it wants to be alive. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you pointed out, Rochelle, this very important stanza about love needs to love. Soul needs to love. Yes, even abuse.
Oh yeah.
But this metaphor of the sky keeps appearing over and over in all of these saints. They all use it, and that's because it is the vast, the limitless. So the sky's limitless mouth is kind.
Mm-hmm.
Its song will never hurt you, for I sing those words.
I love that.
I do too.
I love when the poet interposes himself with God and interchanges.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful to me. And the thing that it says here, that love so needs to love, and it can endure almost anything, even abuse. It reminds me of Leonard Cohen's song, where he says, "That's how the light gets in,
Mm.
there's a crack in everything." Um, and that's how the light gets in. And sometimes, like when you think of Beethoven and how he was, abused as a child, and it's a horrible thing to think of, and I hate it, but it it
Yeah.
let out this music that kind of saved people's souls if you think about it.
Well, he just transcended what happened to him. That's the glory. That's the glory of Beethoven. He could not have written the Ninth Symphony if he had not transcended all of that abuse.
I
He
believe
could
that,
not have
Reverend.
written the Ode to Joy.
I believe that so much, and I just honor him so incredibly deeply. Just his
Yes,
soul. He's
yes.
wow.
That that's that's why, if you remember, was it Linus and Peanuts that played the piano, and loved Beethoven so?
It was Schroeder.
Schroeder, right? Schroeder. Yes. No, Linus was the one with the blanket. That's right.
Yeah.
So, does anybody else have anything to share about this gorgeous poem? Anything else to say?
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful compass pointing to where we should focus. our minds and hearts. Because like at the beginning, how it says, what will our children do in the morning? Will they wake with their hearts wanting to play the way wings should? So yeah, to take how the heart wants to be alive and express that, and
Yes.
to have that be the focus every day to play. And then when we live that way, like you were saying, Brother Shankar, then we model that for our children, or build on their tendency already, I think, to play.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. And yes. So wonderful. And I love your use of the metaphor compass, because that's exactly what Rumi is for us, is a compass. He keeps again and again pointing us in the right direction. Michaeli, anything to add?
Okay. Well, you said that Beethoven had transcended. So would you say that he transcended it through forgiveness? Because, I mean, how would he transcend it?
There must be forgiveness. As is mentioned by several of these poets, several of these saints, but particularly by Rabia. If you go back, Rabia was terribly abused in her youth. She was forced into sexual servitude. And you find that she says, her teacher told her, until you can kiss the hand that caused those scars, you will not know me. She says that God taught her that. And so it has to be, Michaela, you're right, through, it's almost like meta forgiveness, forgiveness of all of creation. Why? Because we are who we are in this moment. And every moment, if we believe in evolutionary theory, every moment that led up to this for eons, literally eons, led to our being who we are in this moment. So when we realize that, truly realize that in the depths of our being, then we transcend everything that happened to us. And there is that ability not only to forgive, but to love even those who abused us. Because mistaken as they might have been, they too are the divine spirit.
Hey, brother, when I was reading, that book today about the samskars, I thought about the purifying of the heart, dropping them. And Jesus said to forgive 70 times 7, love your neighbor as yourself, which is, I think, is another way of purifying and
Absolutely.
and breaking down the samskars and replacing them with love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as that book points out to you, because it describes a process, it's a kind of workbook, as you said. It is a process. We don't start out with this. We may hold it we may take a stand for all of this, but we don't start out in that position. We come to it through slowly and slowly assimilating it, as Sri Ramakrishna said. We assimilate it. Food does us no good if we just chew it up and spit it out. We have to chew it up well, then I ingest it, and then get the nutrients from it. The same thing is true of spiritual teachings. We have to assimilate them, and it is a process. If we are recovering our health, we do this partly by the food we eat, and it doesn't happen all at once. And this is what we're doing as spiritually, is recovering our health. And so,
Beautiful.
Michaela, you're absolutely right. Beethoven was only able to do this because of his, I'm going to say, meta forgiveness. More than just ordinary thoughtful forgiveness, but true forgiveness of the whole being, in the understanding that he was this great being who could write the Ninth Symphony and then conduct it when he was stone deaf. Stone deaf. If I remember correctly, in part his deafness was brought on by being boxed on the ears so much when he was a child.
Right, his father would beat him on the ears and the head.
Yeah. So Michaela, would you like to read Rumi Pay Homage?
Yes.
This directly relates to exactly what we were talking about, this poem.
Rumi Pay Homage. If God said, Rumi, pay homage to everything that has helped you enter my arms, there would not be one experience of my life, not one thought, not one feeling, not any act I would not bow to.
So isn't that just so directly related to what we were saying that was brought up by the other poem? So please read it again, dear.
Rumi, pay homage. If God said, Rumi, pay homage to everything that has helped you enter my arms, there would not be one experience of my life, not one thought, not one feeling, not any act I would not bow to.
So there it is.
I love that.
It's priceless, what he's saying. Every experience he's had, every experience, there would not be one experience of my life. Not one experience, not one thought, not one feeling, not one act I would not bow to. So this is exactly what we were talking about. And however he came to it, this must have been what happened to Beethoven, because he simply could not have written the music that he wrote if he were imprisoned in anger and resentment about what had happened to him.
And victimized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be total forgiveness for his father boxing his ears and making his body go deaf, because that led him to where he's at.
Well, that's how I would think of it, Michaela, yes. Everything that happened to him. This is what Rumi is saying. Not one experience. Not one experience in my life. Everything, and this is just what we were saying earlier. We are, each of us, the composite of everything that's happened to us. So if we are seeking the divine, and clearly that must be the case, otherwise why would we be here this evening? If we weren't seeking divine, what Rumi calls entering God's arms. If we anything else from anyone?
My sister and I were talking tonight, just before I talked to you. We were just going over, I don't know, we were talking about our childhood and how different we are all these decades later. And it was difficult, but we both totally acknowledged that I would not have it any other way, because whatever my parents gave to me or didn't give to me, it brought me to the search for God and to a consistent, year after year search for God. And we were laughing. I said, "Hey, well, she said, I hope I have nice parents in my next life." And I said, this is sisters, okay? And I said, well, I just hope that I get whatever parents I need that push me back into the spiritual path. So I can continue if need be. But I do. I don't. There's just nothing I hold any grudge about. They are who they are, and they gave me exactly what I needed. So.
Apparently so, because here you sit.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's no reason to think about the need for another lifetime. If every one of the great teachers, every one of them says, simply turn to me in devotion and come to me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I shall give you rest. I mean, this is Christ's promise. And then he says, learn from me, I'll become you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. This is the Christian, and Krishna says the same thing. Chaitanya says the same thing. Rama doesn't say it quite like that, but he says it. He more than saying it, he models it.
Thank you, brother. That was beautifully said. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jai Shri Ramakrishna. So, Shara, do you have the book in front of you?
Yes, I
Okay,
have the Kindle version also.
Okay, would you like to read Relationship Booster? This is part of Rumi's great humor. I just love his humor. So please read it for us.
Great, I would love to. Relationship Booster. Here is a relationship booster that is guaranteed to work. Every time your spouse or lover says something stupid, make your eyes light up as if you just heard something brilliant. Should I read it again?
Yes.
Okay. Relationship Booster. Here is a relationship booster that is guaranteed to work. Every time your spouse or lover says something stupid, make your eyes light up as if you just heard something brilliant.
And this is forgiveness in instant action. This is not forgiveness later. This is just forgiveness and love in action right that instant. Because who are we to say that something is stupid anyway? That's just our opinion. And so even if we think it's stupid, let it go, forgive it. Love that person with your eyes. Yes, make your eyes light up as if you just heard something brilliant. Rumi is so funny. So funny. Anything else from anyone about this one?
I think that's beautiful. And I remember a moment where I was at a bat mitzvah celebration, and the grandparents of the 13-year-old who was undergoing this ceremony were just looking at her with such love and adoration. I could just see in their eyes, they were lit up. And that really impacted me. And it was a beautiful, like, spiritual lesson. And I was like, oh, I think that's a nice practice to try to do this, to light up,
Yes.
generate that love from the inside out, because that's really where it comes from, and where it's most reliable. So, and then I feel better. And then I think other people around me also get positively impacted, just like I was, by seeing the love light up through their eyes. That warmed my heart, and that love spread. And so I was like, oh, that's a nice spiritual practice. So sometimes I
Yes, it is.
try to do this.
And the fact is, when we are radiant with love, with compassion, with the feeling of togetherness, it does have an effect on other people, even if they're not aware of it. Those grandparents were not aware that you were, that you felt the shining of their radiance, but it left a mark on your heart. All this time later, it still lives in you. The feeling and the love and the radiance coming from those people. How beautiful, Cheryl. How absolutely perfect. And yes, this is that modeling that Rumi was talking about in the first poem we read. Just, be that, and then your children will fly. Oh, will they fly? And if that isn't what happened to you, well, it led you here. So, anything else from anyone? Okay, Michaela, would you like to read the next one?
Okay, yes. The chance of humming. A man standing on two logs in a river might do all right floating with the current while humming in the now. Though if one log is tied to a camel who is also heading south along the bank at the same pace, all could still be well with the world, unless the camel thinks he forgot something and abruptly turns upstream. Then, oh ho, most minds do not live in the present and can stick to a reasonable plan. Most minds abruptly turn and undermine the chance of humming.
Once again, such humor. Please read it again.
The chance of humming. A man standing on two logs in a river might do all right floating with the current while humming in the now. Though if one log is tied to a camel who is also heading south along the bank at the same pace, all could still be well with the world, unless the camel thinks he forgot something and abruptly turns upstream. Then, oh ho, most minds do not live in the present and can stick to a reasonable plan. Most minds abruptly turn and undermine the chance of humming.
How beautifully said. If we remember, he said earlier, don't get caught on the torturer's rack of the past and the future. It's a few poems back. Don't get caught on the torturer's rack of the past and the future. And now he just uses this metaphor of humming. Just cheerfully humming along, and suddenly the camel turns upstream, and whoops, you get thrown in the water. Not a chance to hum. Again, Rumi's humorous take on
Yeah.
things. Anything else from anyone? What do you see or hear in this poem?
Swamiji, I saw like where it says most minds do not live in the present. And I take that as the camel. The man humming, you could say, was living in the present.
Uh-huh.
But the camel he thought the camel was also in the present, but it wasn't.
The mind, yes, the
Yeah.
camel
And,
being the mind.
right. And it undermined him. It could undermine him on the logs in the water.
Yeah, well, it'll just throw him right in the river.
Right.
If that log suddenly turns upstream and he gets yanked right out from under him. I mean, what a beautiful little story he tells about this man going along the river downstream. You know, everything's going along fine until, oh, I think I forgot something. Yeah. And, it's interesting that the words "a reasonable plan" are in here. The camel doesn't stick to the reasonable plan of keeping on going downstream and helping that man stay on the logs and hum.
And the world doesn't stick to a plan.
No.
We can guarantee that.
Yes, well, right now the world is in such anguish and turmoil. It's a wonder any of us are sane at all.
I agree.
The zeitgeist, the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung called it, is in such torment.
It is. It's heart-rending right now to see the world and be a part of it.
I mean, everyone's yearning back toward what I say everyone. So very many people are yearning back toward what they think of as normal, and so they're just ignoring the obvious, and so more and more people are becoming sick again. There's wars and rumors of wars and all these things. So we're in quite a torment. Like I say, it's just a wonder we stay sane at all.
It's true, brother. And it's every aspect of life right now. Every aspect of life in the world is being just,
Yep.
I don't know, destroyed or changed negatively right in front of our eyes. There's no escape. It almost feels like there's no place to go.
Yeah. Well, we just have our inner resources. That's all we have. We do not have any other resource.
That's right.
As Swami Prabhupada, my teacher, said, I know you don't like to hear it, but as I've told you many times, the only one who is truly your own is the Lord. Everything else will, to one degree or another, change. The shifting sands of change. So, Rochelle, would you like to read Spiritual Health?
Oh, sure. A good gauge of spiritual health. A good gauge of spiritual health is to write down the 3 things you most want. If they in any way differ, you are in trouble.
Yes.
These are humorous and they're serious. And they're like cones almost, and you can learn.
Please read it again, dear.
A good gauge of spiritual health is to write down the 3 things you most want. If they in any way differ, you are in trouble.
why are we in trouble? Because now we've got the problem of more than one desire. If we've got more than one desire, we cannot have a one-pointed mind.
Mm-mm.
If we can't have a one-pointed mind, we cannot penetrate the veil of the appearance to the reality behind it. Like you said, this is both humorous and serious. If they in any way differ, you are in trouble.
If you have more than one want, you're back in the world of desire. I call it the third world. You're back in the world of desire, and you're not.
Yes.
You're not doing your work.
So this is why people need to really sit down and think, what do I really want? And Joseph Campbell, that really great teacher, if you remember, he taught for many, many years at Sarah Lawrence College, which during most of the years he taught there, maybe all the years that he taught there, it was just a woman's college. And it was a women's college. And he would tell his students, follow your bliss. Follow your bliss, and everything else will take care of itself. So we have to find out, what is our bliss? Where do we find our bliss? And it's interesting that coming at it from a completely different perspective, and I mean, they could not have been two people more different in their superficial aspects, Joseph Campbell and Buckminster Fuller. But Buckminster Fuller had another way of saying this exact same thing. He was speaking, of course, about how we seem to struggle for the resources we need to live our lives. And he says, if you are cooperating with the intention of universe, resources are never a problem. Which, of course, precisely mirrors what Christ said when he said, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else shall be added unto you. And that's what Rumi is pointing to here. A good gauge of spiritual health is to write down the three things you most want. If they in any way differ, you are in trouble. Any other comments from anyone? How are we doing for time? Oh, we're good. Okay. Shara, would you like to read Okay, I'll Do It?
Yes, I would love to. Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute button for a moment.
Huh.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I will do it. Sing longer songs tonight because sometimes you're just so damn hard to please. And I guess I am still courting you, trying to get into your soul's knickers. What makes you like that, grouchy around the edges? What classrooms have you lounged in? What nonsense have you traded your gold for? How can you look so needy? God is growing in fields you own. He hangs from trees you pass every day. He is disguised as that peach and pine cone. Every sound I hear, he made it. I have been walking with 2 canes these days. Guess why? It is because of his beauty and that blonde peach fuzz floating everywhere like dust. It has made me so drunk.
Please read that lovely poem again.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. Sing longer songs tonight because sometimes you're just so damn hard to please. And I guess I am still courting you, trying to get into your soul's knickers. What makes you like that? Grouchy around the edges? What classrooms have you lounged in? What nonsense have you traded your gold for? How can you look so needy? God is growing in fields you own. He hangs from trees you pass every day. He is disguised as that peach and pine cone. Every sound I hear, he made it. I have been walking with 2 canes these days. Guess why? It is because of his beauty and that blonde peach fuzz floating everywhere like dust. It has made me so drunk.
Oh, what a priceless poem. Anything from anyone? By the way, Shara, that was an absolutely outstanding reading. I mean,
Thank
really,
you.
such great expression and emphasis. You really found that poem.
Thank you. I think it's so sweet. Rumi has such a way with words to really.
yes, doesn't he? Doesn't he just? He promises us that in the beginning, right at the beginning. He says, "I have a real way with words. If you'll just,
Yeah.
if you'll just chew on them, if you'll just work with them, you can open a cheese shop." And oh, that lovely poem that's so early in this group.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, he has that's what he says. I really have a way with words. So if you just, you know, if you just keep working with them, you'll come to some really great success. Anything else from anyone? Yes, please, dear.
I love it how he's like, okay, I'll do it. Like, why is it that with God's majesty everywhere and everything that we could be drunk on it, we have traded our gold in for that, like the gold inside and out, to be so grumpy, to not let it in, to get into other nonsense. Like, I love that. What classrooms have you lounged in to gather this nonsense? Like, where are you letting yourself be educated, be conditioned, that to trade in God's glory for
A mess of pottage.
yeah, for the doldrums of life. And
Yes.
and then we're so like stubborn. So he's like, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it again. Like, sing
Right.
longer songs because
And
still not
this
getting to your soul.
this is a long one. You know, I'm still not getting into your soul's knickers.
Yeah.
And again, his earthiness is priceless. He's talking about love in every aspect. Love, love, love. Anything from the other two of you?
He hangs from trees you pass every day. he is disguised as that peach and pine cone. Okay, that just stops me. That fragment, that vision, just so much like the Michael Graves wrote a book called The White Goddess, and I guess the Celtics, uh, pre-Christian Celtics had poems that were pretty amazing, and it would say, where do you think I am? I am the rock. You lift me up. I'm the dirt under the rock. I'm the branch on the tree. And then they went on and on and on about what God was. It was all these. He named numerous things, and then to see he's disguised as that peach and pine cone. I don't know. That just goes straight to my heart. Like we pass it by every day.
Yes.
I
Yes.
really
The
love
peach
it.
and pine cone that you pass every day. You were talking about Celtic. John O'Donohue has a book called Anam Cara that is about the very things that you're talking about, Rochelle. It means the soul's love, Anam Cara. And it's about Celtic wisdom and the poetry. O'Donohue himself is a great poet. So
O'Donohue.
John O'Donohue, Anam, and I can't remember if it's two N's or one, A-N-A-M or A-N-N-A-M. The next word, C-A-R-A.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
It's a beauty.
Mm.
Michaela, anything at all from you, dear? You're not, you can pass. You don't
Okay.
have to say anything.
Well, to me, it's a reflection of the creator or God, you could say. So all the beauty that he sees, his mind is totally at one with it at all times. He's not
Yes.
separate.
Yeah. And all of the saints tell us they get this into this drunken state. Sri Ramakrishna, the great saint that founded the lineage that this is part of, he says, I drink no ordinary wine. I drink the wine of divine bliss. And it makes me stagger. So people think I'm drunk. He didn't walk with two canes, but he walked with a person on each side of him often to hold him up, literally.
He always equates. Well, I have books by Coleman Barksburg. Well, I had. I always give away my good books, so I don't have any more. But he says he always equates drunkenness with. I guess I want to say a visitation to his soul or to
Yeah.
and I absolutely love that because I used to teach Saudi Arabian, very conservative Saudi Arabian students, and if I ever brought up Rumi, and even Turkish students, they were like Rumi, and I go, yeah, he's a Sufi. Oh no, teacher, no, teacher, that's not Islam. And especially if Rumi says something like being drunk, they shun that.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's because they don't care for the Sufis,
yeah.
the Orthodox.
Well, I made him read Rumi with me, brother. Always did things like that, and they enjoyed it. But I had to slowly.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful poem.
Okay, we've got time to read this next one. Michaela, would you like to read the Silkworm?
Sure. The silkworm. I stood before a silkworm one day, and that night my heart said to me, I can do things like that. I can spin skies. I can be woven into love that can bring warmth to people. I can be soft against a crying face. I can be wings that lift, and I can travel on my 1,000 feet throughout the earth, my sacks filled with the sacred. And I replied to my heart, dear, can you really do all those things? And it just nodded yes in silence. So we began and will never cease.
Oh, please again, dear.
The silkworm. I stood before a silkworm one day, and that night my heart said to me, I can do things like that. I can spin skies. I can be woven into love that can bring warmth to people. I can be soft against a crying face.
Ah,
I can be wings that lift, and I can travel on my 1,000 feet throughout the earth, my sacks filled with the sacred. And I replied to my heart, dear, can you really do all those things? And it just nodded yes in silence. And so we began and will never cease.
hmm. Hmm.
There's so much here. It's I'm just
What do you hear, dear? What do you see?
he's standing before a silkworm, and I believe observing, and then that night his heart speaks to him as a silkworm. My first take on it, and and gives a spiritual rendition of his capabilities, um, and he alludes to the silk that the silkworm spins. And
Yes,
he said,
I
"Can you
can
really,
be.
yeah, can you do all those things?" He said, "Yes." And said, "We began and will never cease." And that's just, I just love Rumi, the way he talks about God like his best friend and his lover, and he makes no bones about that, and I love that.
I can be soft against a crying face.
Mm.
I can spin skies. I can be woven into love that can bring warmth to people. I can be soft against a crying face. I can be wings that lift, and I can travel on my 1,000 feet throughout the earth, my sacks filled with the sacred. This is the invitation of these great saints. This is the invitation that they hold out their hand to us and say, this is not just my heart, it's your heart. Your heart can do these things too. It just nodded yes in silence. So anything else from anyone about this lovely poem? And thank you for that sweet reading, Michaeli. That was very nice. All right, dears. It's almost 8:30. So we're just going to go ahead. However many of us come each Monday, we're just going to go ahead rather than sign off. We're just going to go ahead. And those people who get, thank you, Shara. Those people who come along, they'll be there with us. So we won't, I don't think we need to start with that one again next week.
Is next Monday the last week because then you're taking a break in August?
That's correct. August, there will be no classes. No
Yay, I'm
discussion.
happy for you
Yeah,
to
me
get
too.
your summer break.
Yes, and
Mhm.
it's needed. I
Mhm.
am, I'm well, but I am weary. It's a fact. This old spacesuit is now in its 81st year.
Oh,
And
Wow.
it's it's doing good, you know.
mhm.
Yeah, amen.
Uh, in part because of the sheer joy of doing this, of sharing things like this with you. I mean, what good is it just to read the book by yourself? It's good to read the book by yourself, but isn't it so much fun to share it with one another?
It is. It's so enriching, brother. I appreciate this so much.
Yeah, me too.
But I really
Me
are though.
three.
And
Yes, you need to
Shara's
take that
nodding
break.
emphatically.
Yes,
Yes,
I
and I just
appreciate
saw
it so
Michaela
much.
wave yes. Yes, so yes, so that's it. Let us open our hearts to one another and just share these joys, because that's what this book is. It's just joy from one end to the other.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I sing Daniel Ladinsky's praises. What a work. Took him 7 years. 7 years, this book.
I tell everyone about it. I don't know
Yeah,
if
I
they're
do.
following up, but
Yeah. If anybody wants to know what the saints have said, here it is. You know, of course, it's not what all the saints have said, but it sure is a great selection and so well interpreted for us.
Yeah.
Ladinsky says, I'm not a translator, I'm an interpreter. I'm putting this in language that we can understand now. And he does it so well and so joyously. So until next Monday, dears, uh, uh, of course, there's the other things that'll go on this week. Tomorrow night, we study the life of Sri Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother. And that is a joyous study, too, because of who she is and what she brought into the world. And then on Wednesday night, we're studying a truly remarkable book called Divine Grace by a Swami of the Ramakrishna order named Ranganathananda. And it's an exposition on the idea that to be fully human, to become fully human, is to become fully divine. So anyway, that's what we'll do the next couple of days, if you choose to join us.
sounds great.
So any
Yes,
final thought from anyone else?
I will be out of town next week, so I will miss the last week of classes. So I will miss you all next week because I treasure this so much. This is
Well,
my
thank you.
favorite one
Thank
on
you,
the Monday
Shara.
night. But
Well,
I'll be here. I intend to join tomorrow and Wednesday, so
good,
of
good,
this
good.
week. Yeah.
Yeah, those are lovely gatherings. We're studying things that are equally joyous, very different, but equally joyous. And um, so a beloved good night to you. Uh, may you be well and in bright spirits. Of dearly beloved, a flower at your feet for each one who comes to your open door. A flower at your feet for each one who stands by your open door and says, come to me, offering to break this world's chain that binds us down to ignorance, suffering, and death. A flower at your feet for each one who takes the path that you have struck through this, your jungle world. Om, Amen. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. peace, peace. Peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, until next time, and Shara, you know perfectly well we won't go very far ahead. Next week we won't read so very many poems. But you can share them with us just by reading the book a little bit and knowing that we'll be talking about it. Any final thought from anyone else?
Great.
All
Well,
right.
I just want to say that I come to all your classes if possible, and I'm just a sponge, brother. I don't say much, but I'm just absorbing all.
Well, you don't need to say anything. Underneath this, as Swami Yogeshananda, the man who started this center, said, consciousness is primary and is not plural. Underneath the appearance, we are one. And when your heart is full, when your mind is loving, when we feel it. You don't have to say anything. There's no demand.
No, and I don't feel any, and I want to just absorb it. And it's so wonderful. So
Let us absorb. Let us be those minds that recognize the peach and the pine cone, and for what it is,
thank you.
and get a little drunk. All right, dears. Good night to your sweet selves, your very sweet selves. Good night. Good night, Michaela.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Rochelle. Good night, Shara.